Welcome to Movie Film, I'm Carl and I just watched a brand new movie on Netflix called Malcom and Marie. So the movie was directed by Sam Levinson and it stars John David Washington, who you'll know from the likes of BlacKkKlansman and Tenet, and Zendaya, who, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't know who she was before I watched this movie, but I now know who she is. Now, before watching this movie, I was a little hyped for it. I was really looking forward to it. I'd seen a couple of minor reviews here and there saying this could be a big movie this year, this could be Oscar winning, and I can see why they'd say it, but ultimately I've got to say straight off the bat, I'm kind of let down. I'm kind of disappointed. It's nowhere near as good as I thought it was going to be, and maybe I just built it up too much for myself. But similarly, I don't think mainstream audiences are going to enjoy this movie. Pretentious over-top critics are going to like this movie, but I don't think mainstream's going to like it. And now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will become a cult classic hit. So the film is about a filmmaker and his girlfriend returning home from the premiere of his film and basically the aftermath of it. In his speech at the premiere, he didn't thank his girlfriend, and that starts off the whole night's argument. And throughout the night, while waiting for reviews to come in of his film, or one review really, both Malcom and Marie end up having fights, arguments, but also, resolutions to those. And there's some interesting stuff happens. Now, the whole film is based inside the house, or minor things outside the house, but majority inside the house, and based on just the two characters. Very much focused on the relationship between these two people. And I guess the whole idea was to show a relationship at its frailest in places, and hoping that audience would see themselves in the characters, see their relationships in the characters, and also showing that these characters have been through so much together and they can get over a lot, but they also have their issues, despite seeming to have it all, because he's just had a breakout film that's getting great reviews, and between them they're pretty successful, but they still have their issues. Maybe there's some other deep hidden meaning behind it that I completely missed, like there's life on other planets or some shit. On the face of it, it's a kind of a nothing story that goes nowhere. The whole thing doesn't have a mainline story, and it doesn't necessarily need to. It very much seems like at some point Sam Levinson, the writer and director of this, had some bad reviews from critics and he wanted to take it out on critics, so he made sure to write loads of stuff about how critics don't know what they're talking about and shit like that. Yeah, he definitely seemed to have his own issues poured out on screen. The weird thing is that within the story kind of keeps repeating on itself. I'm sure that was intentional by the amount of times it happens. So the film starts and the couple come home and everything seems okay. They've just come home from a night out. Malcom puts on some music while Marie goes to the bathroom, and then he's jumping around singing, she starts making food, and then she goes out to smoke while she's waiting for a pot of water to boil. And he's going on about what a great night it was and how the premiere went. And then when she comes in and finishes making the macaroni, the first argument begins. And they have a big argument back and forth. So she storms off, he eats the macaroni and cheese, and then ultimately they have a bit of a resolution and end up fooling around on the couch. Then Marie goes outside, looks through the window and sees Malcom singing and playing some music, and she goes off into the woods. It looks like she's just left. They definitely set it up that she's just left. Malcom suddenly realizes she's not there. He goes looking for her, can't find her. When she comes back in, another argument begins. And this kind of cycle we keep getting of someone goes outside, comes back in, argument begins, resolution, cuddle up, lovey-dovey stuff, and then another argument begins, and the cycle repeats 4 or 5 times. Most stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. This one just has, I'm not quite sure what it has, to be honest. Just as I'm not a movie critic, I'm not a journalist, I'm just a guy who likes movies and speaks about them on a YouTube channel that he made all by himself. Now, as I stated earlier, I saw some reviews and minor things online saying that this film could win some Academy Awards, and I fully agree with that. I think this film, more than being a mainstream film, it aimed at being Oscar fodder, and I think that's exactly what it is. It's out there aiming to win awards. And the main area I think they could win awards in is for Best Actor and Best Actress, because both John David Washington and Zendaya are fantastic in their respective roles, in my opinion. A lot of the film is based in one or the other giving out to each other or telling a story. A lot of the dialogue is very on the nose and just delivering all these facts like, oh, you used to do this, you used to do that. Remember when we did this? They don't really show us, they just tell us these things. When you have a film where two people are just giving out to each other, or there's one person giving out and having to portray anger, that's one of the easier emotions for everyone to pull on. And give a strong performance to, but both actors do it well. They don't really go over the top. They both had ridiculously long monologues, although some of them were just poorly written, and the editing obviously helps with doing the monologue type of things. There's lots of parts where one of them is just sitting there either crying or staring into a bowl of food, and the other one's berating them. And that's a lot of the movie. That's probably like 70% of the movie. There's a lot of juxtaposition in this film as well, where there's a lot of changing emotions, going from angry and I hate you and you're a bastard to I love you, you're great, back to I hate you again, remember you didn't do this, and oh, remember we did all this stuff, oh, I had these other girlfriends, and all these other changing emotions, and just it kind of goes all over the place. But at the same time, the actors did a really good job of interchanging between the two as much as they could. The writing, as I said, I don't think was great in this movie. I'm sure some people will disagree, but I just found a lot of dialogue on the nose, some of it just over the top wordy, and as I stated earlier, I think Sam Levinson just doesn't like film critics. It's understandable, because even I don't watch film critic stuff or read film critic stuff, because a lot of it's fairly pretentious. They try to make movies that are boring and just not good in their own opinion, just to be different. Yeah, it's kind of weird. The editing in this film is interesting because, and this is going to be a weird statement to say, as someone who's made a film before, I don't see why they edited this movie. And that's going to be a weird thing. I don't understand why this movie, which is all set in one night based around two characters in one location, couldn't be a one shot. And now I know that's just a stylistic choice and different directors do things differently, but this film seems perfectly set up to be a one shot, kind of like Birdman, where there's just continuous filming, clever edits that you don't realize are edits. But this one has some very abrupt edits at times. And also there's one scene where Zendaya's character, Marie, is talking on the floor. It's a scene when she says, "Why didn't you cast me?" in the movie. And they're talking about that. And he's like, "Oh, you're just jealous." And she starts giving this monologue, and it's very clearly overdubbed, and it's clearly overdubbed very poorly. The voice we hear doesn't match the face we see on screen. And it's very, very, very painfully obvious that the overdubbing is just really bad there. It's almost two different performances. They don't line up. It was a weird choice. Maybe they went into the editing and realized they wanted her to have a different emotion, and they tried doing it with the sound, it just didn't work. And maybe it's an intentional thing, maybe there's some secret hidden meaning I'm completely missing behind this poor overdub, or maybe it's just bad. Then you've got the thing where all night they've had these arguments, they've rekindled, they've been intimate, and they both smoked like 40 cigarettes that night, and ultimately we end up with them getting ready to go to bed and having one last argument. And as they're getting to bed, Malcolm finally apologizes and she says thank you or something to that effect. And he wakes up alone. And I'm thinking to myself at this point, okay, maybe they're gonna have a big twist ending, a twist ending that would actually make sense. Maybe, and here was my thinking, what could make it a good ending is if Marie, not that she doesn't exist, I'm not going with like a Midnight Sky type of thing here, but that she did exist, but the person he was arguing with all night actually died from the overdose, and that's what his film was about. So therefore he's been arguing all night about not giving credit to his own character, who was his former girlfriend who overdosed. That would have, a link there all the way through. It would make more sense. But instead he just goes out and I think he just pisses off a cliff. Is that how the movie ends? I think that's how the movie ends. He just goes out, stands beside her on a cliff, and he seems to, based on his hand movements, piss off a cliff. It's certainly a unique ending to a movie. I'm sure there's people out there who are hearing what I'm saying could be a good ending, go, that'd be a fucking terrible ending, the real ending was great. But ultimately it just seems like a story to nothing. Because it's like a guy waiting on reviews of his own film, it seems like a lot of the dialogue was the writer trying to predict what critics were going to say about this movie and putting that into that movie to, foreshadow what was coming. Kind of knowing that people are going to give out about this movie, because it's not really a mainstream movie. I don't think most critics are going to like it. I don't think most fans are going to like it. I think it's going to get a low score on Rotten Tomatoes. I'd be very surprised if it didn't. Or wherever you score films, I think it's going to get low scores to average scores. Now, to say it's a bad movie, I think is harsh. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's as bad as, say, Midnight Sky, which I thought was awful. But I don't think it's good either as just a film that you would sit down and watch with your family or with your girlfriend or with your wife or whoever you watch movies with. Now, maybe I'm completely missing something. I just watched the film like half an hour ago and I immediately start recording this review. Maybe I'm completely missing something. If I am, let me know in the comments below. I'm sure there's some deep hidden meaning, or maybe it's just a bad movie. As I say, it's hard to say it's a bad movie because at times I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed the performances. I thought the intensity of Zendaya and John David Washington at times was fantastic. They did seem to have a bit of chemistry. At least the chemistry grew throughout the movie. The other thing which I found a bit weird was the film's in black and white. It's in grainy, high contrast black and white, which I traditionally think of as a movie, either an old-fashioned movie or a movie set in the past. Something like Mank recently, a movie set in the past somewhere. But this one is set in modern day. They've got iPhones, they're talking about the Lego movie. Yeah, it kind of really confuses the setting. And I know it's just a stylistic thing. I'm sure if I was speaking to the director, he'd be saying, no, that was just a stylistic choice. It doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason other than just wanting it to be in black and white. I think the intent behind the movie was good. I think the idea was exciting, for me at least. When I initially heard it and I read the concept, I've been waiting all week for this movie to come out and I kept checking it. Even last night, I stayed up late last night to see if they'd release it early and I could watch it early. As soon as it was available, I watched it. I was really excited for this one, as I say, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe I built it up within my own mind beforehand that it was going to be fantastic. And for me, it was just a bit of a letdown. I'd be very surprised if the majority of the general public liked this movie. I think you'll get some I think what you will get is some people will like it, some people will find something in it, some people that see themselves within the characters in relationships like that will relate to it. But other than that, the only other people that I think will enjoy this movie will be possibly filmmakers who are in a similar boat to, like, you know, wait on reviews of their films and the range of emotions that comes with that. The other people that will like are highly pretentious film critics who, you know, just like shitty films for the sake of saying they like shitty films. I guess it gets them more clicks. It's not the best film I've seen. I don't think it's the worst film I've seen, but it's definitely middle of the road, maybe slightly below middle of the road, maybe like a 5 out of 10 if I was giving it a rating. But there we go. I wasn't blown away by it, kind of disappointed by it, but I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Malcom and Marie, if you've seen it, let me know what you thought. Did you love it? If you loved it, why did you love it? What did I miss about it if you loved it? And of course, if you didn't like it, I want to know that as well. Let me know in the comments what you didn't like about it. And the interesting question about this one is, how many Academy Awards do you think it's going to win? My prediction is at least one for one of the actors. Probably Zendaya. So if you liked today's video, guys, please hit that like button just so I know what you're watching. And of course, if you're new to movie film, come and check out some of the other content on our channel. If you love movies, you're sure to find something that you'll like on this channel. And of course, if you like what you see, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We're on the road to 150 subscribers at the time of recording. 143, we only need 7 to hit 150, and it'd be greatly appreciated if you help us grow this little YouTube channel. But for now, with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching.